when I was 10. I was in Vacation Bible School, and that was when I accepted the Lord as my Savior. Up in Lake Ann, I worked with 3 people in the summer of 1980, and that was Dwight Hirschberger. And Dwight was a English teacher, 27 years old, out of Jackson, Michigan, and he was in his 4th year teaching. And Sally Kuhn actually went to school with me. She was a junior at Grand Rapids College, and she was probably going to go into full-time missions. And then Mark Taube was actually one of Dwight's students who came up that year to work with us, and he was going to go into more of the mechanical engineering. So those were the guys. The day was July the 3rd, and it was bright, sunny, just a beautiful blue sky. And we took off with 2 canoes to go across what was called at that time, it was kind of like Drummond Island. There's a bay there. And as we came across, not a cloud in the sky, just absolutely beautiful. And then all of a sudden you saw on like the eastern horizon this huge black cloud. I mean, it was huge. It came over into the bay area, and then boom, it just went just crazy. I mean, all of a sudden we had wind, we had waves, from 3 to 6 foot waves, and of course it capsized the little canoe. And I can remember our one canoe just got tossed like a toothpick just across the wind. And all of a sudden that bright, beautiful day turned into a very violent day. But we were at the mercy of the water, and as we churned through there, that became a very dark, turbulent night. We had to last through the night. There were no ships that came through there. And as the storm stopped, the tide took us away from Drummond, and it pulled us into a place called Cockburn Island. So through the night, I had to last, and so did my friends. Sally, the elements take over her, and she's not very coherent, and she lets go of the canoe and just drifts into the darkness during the night. And then Dwight got into the 3rd stage of hypothermia, ended up very incoherent, and just went off to, with the storm, just got pushed over to the side. And so Mark and I were the only ones left, and I noticed that his pupils were totally dilated. And now he was in the 4th stage of hypothermia. And the hypothermia is called the silent killer. Early, it was probably about 4:30 in the morning, and he stopped breathing. You have a soul. And I remember that night on the water, there was nothing warm. And when he passed away, I could feel a warmth hit my chest as his soul rose to be with the Lord. And so then I started swimming toward the island. I swam approximately about a little over a mile, and then walked about 5.5 hours before I was found. This gentleman came in, and he was an emergency room doctor, and this guy was drop dead gorgeous. I remember that. And I just thought, woo, I'm alive. And at any rate, I looked at him, and he was just looking at me. He was looking at my chart. Then he started walking back and forth next to that gurney, and my mother was in the room there, and all these nurses were around in the emergency room, and you could hear him saying, hey, that's that girl. She's the one that survived. She survived the 15 hours in Lake Huron. And you could hear him whispering around you, and you're trying to digest that because you're the one. It's almost like you're on Reader's Digest. You're the one that they're talking about. And that guy, I kind of referred to him as Dr. Dreamy, and to be honest with you, I don't remember the physician's name. But he kept rattling his hair like this. He had beautiful hair, I remember that. And he said, Cheryl, you're not supposed to be here. Do you know that, young lady? You were supposed to have died 2 nights ago on Lake Huron. Doc, I said, no offense, but I'm sure glad you're not in charge. And then he looked at me, and at that point I looked at him, and I remember he looked down at me, and he said, Cheryl, he said, I am really sorry. He said, you got to understand something. He said, in the scientific books, there's no reason you should still be living and breathing on this earth. you should have died. People do not last in 15 hours in 49-degree water. The average life expectancy is 3 to 5 hours. And he looked at me and he said, you are a miracle baby. He said, Cheryl, I'm an atheist. And he said, you're going to have to make me rethink what you've gone through is making me rethink what something known as God is out there. Because surely you are a miracle baby. And I just remember a light bulb went off and I thought, wow, I'm not supposed to be here.